This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
What is up, everybody? Shikrai, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we speak in tongues, and we also refine and redefine the sales game today. I'm going to have a good time on this one, because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that revolves around the trip that we took, bucket list trip, not just because of the geography, not just because of the activity, but also because of the company, where we went to Alaska and went fishing for everything under the sea and a few things out of the air that we're going to talk about in this podcast with my good friends, Mr. Daniel Seong, Aron Robertson, and my number one, Mr. Grayson Carothers. So, guys, welcome. Welcome to my living room of recollection.
We have a hard time remembering it. It's been so long. Was it August we took this trip?
It was, man. It was I've been all the way to Germany and back since then, and New York City twice. Yeah. And
I forget why it was. Why was it we had to reschedule this podcast so many times? Was it like 6 times, David, we had to reschedule this?
I think it was about 7.
7, okay. I forget why, but
I apologize. They're still giving me a hard time. One time I had to reschedule. It was due to work, or I forget what it was. The second time, that's when I was on my deathbed dying, but I still had the courtesy to let everybody know that, hey, I am not going to make it today.
Listen, everybody, I want you to hear it loud and clear. Daniel Seong is a professional canceller. He knows exactly how to get the word out so that you know what's going on. I honestly didn't know you were that sick, man. Aron told me, he's like, I think Daniel's pretty bad off. So yeah. I probably did bust your chops a little bit more than I should, and I apologize for that a little bit. But Alaska, man, Daniel, you had never been to Alaska before, right? You had never been fishing before. You had, like, so many firsts for you in this trip. Like, if you were to summarize just like briefly what was going through your mind when because to me it's still surreal when we landed in Anchorage, and part of it's probably because we were so tired the next day, but that first day when we drove up toward Denali, and you're looking left and right, there's all these rivers and streams and, fog and moose and everything. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, holy cow, like we're really here. What was running through your mind?
Yeah, well, it was definitely a trip of a lifetime. And you're right. I've never been fishing before. So whenever you post your Florida pictures of all the fish and everybody around you, and you had just having a great time, I really envy that. And I said, man, how cool would that be? And everybody that I know that goes fishing just absolutely loves it. So never been fishing before in my life. Never been to Alaska in my life. And for Alaska to be my first fishing trip, boy, I got to tell you, I still talk about it. And I've talked enough about it where Christina is saying, you know what, I'm going to go with you, because we had a great time. That trip was, I still think about it. And that's why I want to plan another trip this year, because we did have so much fun, and the memories and the stories, and also obviously company has something to do with it, because we did get pretty close to each other.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it was a good timing too. I think if I had any regrets, I just really wish there was a faster way to get there and back. Like you lose a whole day getting there and a whole day coming back. And, look, I can probably speak freely for all of us. That's an awful long time to be away from home.
Yeah.
It's an awful lot. That's a very big ask for me to ask Andrea to keep the kids by herself for what amounted to 9 days. And it's different than when I typically travel, at least recently for work, because Grayson has not been going with me and he can actually help a little bit with the kids when I'm not there. But she was very gracious in letting me go. If she would have said she didn't want me to go, I wouldn't have gone. She said, nope, go get it. At first, she really wanted to go with me. And then when I started describing more along the line, I mean, she would have done the fishing and everything else, but it's really tough to convert the Alaska wilderness into the Ritz-Carlton is what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to get
I was just
to.
going to say that. There's no Ritz. There's no Chanel out there. There's no Cartier. So she was going to have a tough time.
Yeah, she was. So, Aron, this is your second time or more, right?
Yeah.
How's this compare to when you went last year, other than you didn't have COVID this time?
That's the biggest differentiator. But I know we were talking, and I know I'd mentioned that this trip was coming back up and it was for sale and we could go again and all that. And David, you said this is on my bucket list, which when you say bucket list to me, I'm like, bro, don't say bucket list unless you're ready to go, because we'll make that'll happen and we'll get on a plane. But I think I got more opportunity to get out, and again, being healthy, and I had COVID, and this time was just better. We just didn't really have any restraints. We could kind of go wherever we wanted to. But again, the adventure with my friends, it was just providing an opportunity for us to have just so much fun, and just let whatever happens is going to happen. And damn, it did. And it was such an adventure from the time that we even left, San Antonio to get to LA, then to Seattle, then seeing you in Seattle, and then Anchorage, and the whole trip. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about it this morning, just like everything from the flight to getting there to just going to breakfast with a damn adventure. So this was better with my friends. I would do it 10 times out of 10 again. And if you've never been to Alaska, this is my just call to everyone: go to Alaska. It is unbelievable. Everywhere you look.
Yeah, and I'm gonna ask Grayson the same question here in just a second. But I think that for me, one of the things that really hit home more than anything else was the impact that us going on that trip made on other men and other people in the industry. Partially because Grayson was with me as my son, but I can't tell you guys, and I'm sure you had the same. I can't tell you how many people, like probably over 100, emailed, text, shot Facebook messages saying, wow, what an awesome trip. Love looking at your pictures. Love seeing the video. What a great trip to take with your son. I'm going to make this a goal for me to do with my son, or even some people, my daughter. I know, Aron, you have girls, so that, take your daughter. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's great to talk about doing that, but the difference is I pulled the trigger. That's why I got pictures. That's why I got video. And I think too many times we look at people that are going and doing the things that we want to do, that we think would be awesome and great memories to make, and yet we never take that next step. We're not promised tomorrow, everybody.
Right.
I mean, if you have that trip in front of you, to Aron's point, what he said is, if you say bucket list, I'm getting on a plane. I don't say bucket list unless I plan on getting on a plane.
Yeah.
We used to throw that term around loosely, but I'm at the point now, when I turn 50, I know for a fact I've lived at least 50% of my life. If I live to be 100, there's no way there's any quality of life, because I went hard for the first 50 already. Now it's time for me to be able to go and relax and enjoy that time that I have left while I'm still young enough and physically able enough to enjoy it. And I would tell anybody to do that. I'm not advocating you rack up a bunch of debt. I'm not advocating that you ignore your business. There's a time to go and there's a time not to. Did my business suffer because I was gone? Yeah, it probably did to some degree, because I was gone for 9 days, and things happen when you're gone for that period of time. But there was nothing that happened at all whatsoever in any of my endeavors that wasn't fixable or recoverable when I got back. And it takes a lot for me to get out and unplug like that and not stay wired into everything that was going on. And even though I probably did communicate more than I needed to, I think that I did a reasonable job of not staying completely plugged into everything that was going on for the time that we were there. And that's what the magic was for me. What I explained to everybody, I could tell you anything and everything to describe what it's like to go and walk out and step foot in Alaskan soil the first time. But anything I say is not going to do it any justice whatsoever. There is no way for me to paint a word picture that would describe to you what it's like. It has to be experienced. And I actually used that same metaphor with Grayson the first time I took him to New York City last summer. I said, look, man, I can tell you everything to expect, but no matter what I say to you, the first time you step out onto Fifth Avenue and you look left, right, up, down, you're going to be like, holy crap, nothing could have prepared me for this. And it's the same way. It's just a different visual.
Well, if you remember, I was very geeked up about Alaska because I've been there, and I was trying to, like, we had that trip, what, 3 months planned, and I said, guys,
well, it may have been 15 months planned, depending on
technicality. But the point is like I was super excited, and I was like, I don't want to oversell this. So I remember we were coming back from Denali, going down the Kenai Peninsula, and I was a designated driver. I remember I looked over at you, David, and I said, and we had just saw a narwhal, we saw some seals, we saw a couple other eagles and things like this, and we were just looking at this beautiful scenery. And I looked over at you, I said, I know I got excited, but is there any, what do you think? Didn't want to oversell Alaska. What do you think? And he looked at me with a dead face and said, there's no word to describe this place. There's no way you could have possibly oversold what I'm looking at. And I was like, okay, mission accomplished, because that was what, day 2, 1, or whatever it was. It's unbelievable. But I mean, like I said, that's one of the reasons I wanted to do these trips like this and just get the hell out of the office. We all work hard. We all have stress. We all have debt. We all have things we want to do. But, there's not a lot of opportunity to get put in front of us, to David's point, to go out and see parts of the world like this. I mean, Daniel has never been fishing. I was like, man, how have you not experienced, 40 years of life and not done that? That's something you've got to go do, and something you just got to go out and just, recharge your battery with wilderness and just be one with the trees and the animals and just the view and the scenery and that kind of thing. It's just
he's an angler now. He's an angler.
We're angling. Well, one thing, Dave, I've told you this privately, and probably publicly too, but your relationship with your wife and your kids is something to be admired. And I do see you being intentional and putting a lot of focus and energy in it. Just like you invest in your business, you invest in your family. Grayson,
I think that goes both ways, though, Daniel. I mean, Aron and I heard you and Christina coordinating Mr. Nathan's schedule. And I mean, my guy's got more handlers than I do at his age. So there's a lot of intentional investment there, too. And I think, and I know you want to say something to Grayson, and I want him to answer the same question that we've all kind of opined on a little bit. But I want to be very clear on something, too. I think that when you're open and you're honest about how you invest in your family or how you invest in those relationships, that a lot of time people on social will look at that and think there's a guy that's got it all figured out. Everything's perfect. Or there's another subset that goes, there he is showing off again. I bet he beats his wife when nobody's looking. The reality is that everything that I see from the content of your family that's captured on video, albeit very well produced from an end product standpoint, is also 100% on point. So for you to tell me that you have that level of respect, obviously it's reciprocated, man, because I'm not doing anything that you're not already doing. You're just seeing it through a different lens when you see how I operate.
Grayson, by the time a child reaches 18 years of age, that child has spent 98% of their time with their parents in their life. When your child reaches the age of 18, they have spent 98% of the time that they're going to spend with you already. Because when once you hit 18, if you go to school, you come home for the holidays and then you go get a job, and maybe you live on the different side of the coast, and it's just, right? Sometimes you get together for the holidays. I mean, it's almost separate lives. So Well, I'm really curious about how you enjoy the trip, but also, kind of what you got out of the trip. Like, what is your dad doing for you that makes you say, well, you know what, when I have kids, I want to kind of do this?
Yeah, so there's definitely two completely different answers to that question, because I could answer the part about my dad and what he's done for me, but I also got a lot out of you and Aaron and spending some time around you guys. So first of all, I'll just answer what I got out of that trip was it was one of my first real, I guess I would call it like old-fashioned spending time with people experiences, because it had been a long time, at least as long as I could remember, since I didn't really have my cell phone on me all day. I didn't really have the ability to spend my time doing anything other than socializing with and getting to know the people that I was with. So one of the biggest things that I got was just hearing both of you and Aaron's story. And it was very impactful for me, because coming from both of you guys, you talked a lot about your experiences whenever you were around my age in the Marines. And I think that one of the things that I picked up on, both from the stories you told me versus present day, was that a lot of what you guys were doing at my age shaped you into who you are today, in terms of your habits, your discipline, your respect, all those things that you guys had learned. And I think that what that illustrated to me was it's very important for me at my age to spend my time doing the right things, because whenever I get to your guys' age, what I did in my past is really what's going to shape me into who I want to be. So that was probably my biggest takeaway outside of my dad, was just getting to know you guys, hearing about where you guys came from versus where you guys are today, and really what it takes to make the type of men that you guys are.
Grayson, just so you know, Aaron and I, we are nowhere near your dad's age. Okay. Your dad's old, right? Just
Right,
so you know.
right, right.
And I also want to be very clear that some of those stories that mold and shape him were by giving him examples of things not to do.
Yeah.
I want to be
That's right.
very, very
I,
clear about
Majority of
that.
it not to do.
I
Yeah,
wasn't going to
Grayson was
go
much
there,
more.
but
Yeah, Grayson was much more political in his answer than
yeah,
he
yeah.
needed to be. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody else. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Aaron, you got to tell. Okay, let's kind of go into the trip a little bit, because you flew in from San Antonio.
Yeah.
David and Grayson flew in from Florida. I flew in from California, but kind of go through the first couple of days, man.
So I leave, like, I booked my flight, and I think that flight had been changed probably 10 to 12 times with Delta. And I've got my points, and I am not nearly what you guys have, but I've got, some loyalty built up there. And I booked through Delta, and I thought, okay, we'll get this thing locked down so it doesn't move. I know exactly where I'm landing, when I'm taking off. That was the farthest thing that would have just happened. I mean, my flight, I got notified probably, I don't know, a couple, 3 or 4 times a week. Hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts, your flight has now changed. Like, my goodness gracious. So I went from having like an hour and a half delay or layover in Los Angeles to a 9-hour layover in LA. I got to LA at 9 a.m. or something crazy. Daniel, out of the goodness of his heart, comes to LA early just to hang out because I'm bored. I went and took a nap. I went and got a massage. I did everything known to man in that airport without leaving airport, right? So he finally gets there. We relax, get on a flight, go to Seattle, and then we're waiting around again, which is understandable. We're in the I think the Centurion Club or one of the Delta Lounges or something like that, and we're
Yeah.
we're having fun. And I'm like, you know what? This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've been literally in the same clothes for, at this point, coming up on 12 hours. I'm gonna go take a shower. Daniel's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm gonna go take a shower. He's like, really? I said, 100%. There's free showers. I'm gonna take full advantage. And so I took a shower. I had some clothes on me. I changed with the clothes that I had in my bag, and then I think we met David and took off. And but just I think just kind of the expectations that we had were only met with the reality once we all got there. You know, okay, what is this going to be like? We're all there together. We all got there in Seattle, and then we took off. It was fun just to get everybody there. And then it was like, okay, let the real shenanigans begin. I didn't realize it was going to be quite the fiasco once we landed in Anchorage, but I remember we got to Anchorage and I land there, and me and Grayson were waiting for our bags to come down. He got his last bag, and Grayson, I looked over, I said, "There's no way, right?" And he's like, "You think they lost your bag, bro?" I go, "God, don't say that." Lost my bag.
Yeah.
I was first class priority, and they lost my bag, only to find out that no, my bag was not in Anchorage. It was not even in Seattle. It hadn't even left Los Angeles.
Well,
And-
and Aaron, you had a firearm in there.
Oh, a large one at that. I had a large firearm.
Or any other kind?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's gonna take to Alaska, right? You had a large firearm, and they're like, yeah, well, I mean, those are firearm bags, the ones they like to keep track of where they're at on the plane, and that kind of thing. They had no idea where my bag was.
Well, I mean, think about it, man. I dodged a massive bullet because I had gone through everything 2 different times, and we went in, checked in as we were getting ready to head home. And for some reason in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I felt like I had 2 boxes of that one kind of ammo, and I only remember putting one in my suitcase. Let me take everything completely out of my backpack just to make sure. I have no idea why it popped into my head. I have no idea why I would even have thought of it. And I take it out, and sure enough, there's a brand new unopened case of 45
Oh my gosh.
cartridges in my backpack. And so Aaron is still checking in his stuff. And I went up and said, look, man, I mean, this is not a cheap box of ammo, but you know, you can have it if you want to put it in your checked bag before you check it. You can do that. But I don't think I can carry this on. I'd get in trouble. And the lady's like, no, not only would you have a massive fine, you'd probably get arrested and also be banned from flying for the next 6 months. And I'm like, holy crap, man, I needed to be I was flying somewhere I was flying to Key West that weekend. Then the following week, I was flying somewhere for a speaking gig, and we had the trip to New York with Josh and Ashley Gurley on the books. We had the trip to New York with our families in December for Christmas. I'd have missed all of that stuff if I wouldn't have gone back in. And I'm thinking, holy cow, like, talk about divine intervention.
Wait, so
talk
so
about
this was-
divine intervention.
This was leaving Alaska?
Yeah, when we were
Yeah.
leaving, I pulled a box of ammo out, thank God, that would have gone through TSA, and I'd have been toast, man.
She
I don't
looked at
even
me,
know
she
if
said-
I can't fly, how am I going to get home, man? It would have taken me 2 weeks to drive.
She looked at me. She said, "I don't think your friend realizes how lucky he is." I was like, "I think he does." I could
Yeah.
tell his pants puckering as he's walking away. I think he does.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Yeah, that was something else. But yeah, we all got checked into the hotel. Well, no, I mean, let's not even go that far. We got the rental car. So
And,
we
and
rented-
Aaron, this is what, at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
yeah, about 2 o'clock in the morning. So
Alaska time, people, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, our times.
yeah, so we got to the rental car place, and I think it was like a Nissan Armada or something like that, a mid-sized SUV. And we get in it.
It was Jeep. It was a regular Jeep
Jeep,
Cherokee.
that's right.
It was
Yeah,
a Cherokee.
Yeah, so we get in it. Mind you, I'm missing 2 bags. We're jammed to the gills with
Gills.
bags. And I looked over, I said, guys, I don't think this is gonna be enough a car. I don't think this is gonna be enough, right? So luckily had the opportunity to go back in there, get out of the Jeep, get into an F-150 that had open bed on the back. And luckily everybody had the bags that were waterproof. But you know, and then it's okay, let's go ahead and leave. Let's go to the hotel because we're all tired. Just kidding. We're all flooded into the parking garage.
Pouring rain.
Can't get out. Not only were we flooded in, there was a car that had been tried to forge the little river, if you will, in the Alaska parking garage that had gotten stuck. So not only are we flooded, we're blocked in. And we just looked at each other like, this is Anchorage. This is Alaska, folks. This is the things you don't get in Tampa or Anaheim or wherever you're at, San Antonio. This doesn't happen there. So this is all part of the adventure. I kept trying to tell myself, look, this is all part of the adventure. This is going to be fine once I get my bags, once we get to fish and have some good fun. But yeah, those things you can't script. Certainly adventurous.
And then
Yeah.
so we check into our hotel. And what was it? We still don't have your luggage.
So Daniel Daniel's, I think, asleep, or at least playing, acting like he's asleep. And I wake up, get my clothes on that I've had on effectively for 12 hours now. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't going to fix itself, right? So let me just get up, get the car, go down to Walmart and buy clothes, toothbrush, toiletries, so that I could, just, be somewhat hygienic and in a close proximity of my friends the next 12 hours or so.
Yeah, we were only willing to get so close with nature, man. So I mean, we do appreciate that.
So went down to Walmart, and one thing I didn't, and I'm not knocking Anchorage, I love Anchorage, but one thing I didn't realize about Anchorage is there's the crime that's in Anchorage. I mean, everything they had there was locked up. The toothbrushes, the toothpaste, the toiletries, the underwear. You had to get the key to get those things open. And apparently there's a lot of people doing smash and grab and that kind of thing, which I was really surprised. At Anchorage, you think there's, it's rural and whatnot, but they have the same problems, I guess, or maybe even more that other places have. But so I think I spent $120 on some pants that didn't really fit, a shirt that was good enough that I think ripped when I put it on, and a jacket just to kind of keep me cool enough, and some toiletries and stuff. So that's how we started. We get back and like, okay, let's go grab some coffee. Let's get ready to go. I think Daniel, I don't think you like the coffee at the
It was excellent.
Clarion or whatever the hell we were at. It's not the Ritz Carlton, but the Clarion Inn or wherever the hell we were at.
Comfort Inn, man.
There it is, Comfort Inn. But as tired as we all were, I mean, we could have slept in the truck and it'd been just fine, I think. But
I'd have literally slept in the bed of the truck.
Water and all, yeah. So once we got there situated, we're like, you know what? Now I think we go and we just sightsee, because we can't leave Anchorage until I know where my bag's at. They're supposed to be delivering my bag to Anchorage, and I can't leave to go down to Kenai until I have my bag. So,
well, and the other reason is because they're not supposed to take that bag anywhere other than the airport because you had a firearm.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's going to be signed for and all that stuff. So, yeah. So we go and make our way north. I guess it was northeast to go towards Denali. And that was a great trip. Even just parking on the side of the road, that bridge we saw, the water rushing, and it was, I think, David, you made a video, but that was the first time to kind of see the scenery. And I think there was a cow moose and a cub on the side of the road that we stopped to look at. And it was just like, there it is, man. You don't see moose in Florida or California. And there it was.
No, and I think that, for me, a defining moment, and this might be a little cliche, but I really don't care. Like the first time that you get out of the truck and you take that first full breath of that just ridiculously pure air and it gets into your lungs, it's completely different, man.
Right.
I don't have the ability here, right? Number one, it's ridiculously humid, but just even from a pollution standpoint and everything else, you're not going to get air nearly as pure in Tampa, Florida, as you're going to get, north of Anchorage, Alaska. And we stepped out to go down to that river, and it was just like, that's the first thing I did. I just took a big, deep breath. And I'm like, wow, man, that's really amazing air to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, and just so much water had risen up in that river, and all the debris that went through it. You can see the tides have changed with the ocean coming in and out and all that. But I mean, and even going up, we tried our best to see Denali. There was so much cloud cover and things we couldn't see it. I think we got a glimpse once or twice of the summit, what we thought was a summit of Denali, but
we saw it much better when we were fishing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so then we finally heard back from the airport. It says, well, we're going to make accommodations. Once we have found your bag, we will make sure we bring it to where you're at. I said, I'm going to Kenai. That's 3 hours away. She paused and said, like, well, then we're bringing it to Kenai. I'm like, as long as you're bringing it to Kenai, where I'll be, that's okay. So once we saw Denali and got our way back south, I think it was kind of like, you know what, we're just going to go make the best of it. And if I got to, stay in the same clothes for 3 or the 4 or 5 days, whatever going to be there, then we're just going to do that. But I think we all kind of took it in stride. I think, we were at some parts delirious from being tired, just thrilled with where we're at. Like I threw a Canadian accent out one time and Grayson could not get enough of it. I don't even know where the hell it came from. So we're all doing it, but it was just so much fun. It was just kind of like, damn, we're actually here, we're doing it, and we're actually seeing again for me, the first time for you guys, the scenery that place is just again, I tell people all the time that Alaska is a damn postcard everywhere you look. And I don't think I disappointed when I said that.
Yeah. It was so
No, I mean that's about as accurate as you can get.
Yeah.
After a few days, we finally get to our destination, and this is where the trip starts. We're staying at the lodge. And I was actually really impressed. And Aron, you did a great job. And I don't think we've thanked you enough because you really took the bull by the horns and you scheduled everything, you planned everything out. And this place was fantastic. I mean, we were on the river. There was a main kitchen area or a cabin. So every morning before we went out, now on some of those nights or days, we would get up around 3 o'clock because we had to pick up, we had to go to the kitchen, pick up our breakfast, pick up our lunch, and then drive another 2-3 hours to wherever we were going. We would fish all day, come back around 4 or 5 o'clock, and they would have supper waiting for us. We would eat, hang out a little bit, and then we would just hit the rack. Grayson, you got to tell me, your dad's used to the Ritz-Carlton, and so are you, right? If you're his son. Now, what was your first impression when we opened the door to the lodge? What was your first impression of the cabin that we stayed in?
Honestly, my first impression was this is going to be a really long week. That was my first impression. I will go ahead and throw it out there that it ended up being much, much, much better than I initially had anticipated. But if I'm being completely honest with you, my first impression was this is going to be a long week.
And see, from my perspective, I'm like, this is pretty nice. This isn't bad at all.
No. Grayson, describe the lodge, like the room, the setup, everything.
So it was a 2-story house at the top of a hill, and there was 3 of them side by side. And whenever we had went inside, there was a little living room area, a small little kitchen, and then upstairs there was
and a bathroom downstairs.
Yeah, there was
and
a bathroom
downstairs. That was it.
Yes.
Downstairs.
Upstairs there was a bathroom. There was an open sort of room that had 2 twin. That was a twin bed, correct?
I think so. It was a small bed, yeah. A twin or a single.
They were regular full beds, but yeah, there were.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there was 2 small beds in an open area, and then there was a bedroom that had 2 beds in there. So all 4 of us were all upstairs, all nice and cozy, and I think honestly that helped.
And another bathroom
upstairs, yeah. So
yeah, but I mean, I look at it as it could have been way worse than what that was. I mean, we were in the Ritz-Carlton for that part of the country. I mean,
that's exactly right, because we were in what you call the suites per se, because there were much smaller rooms in a different area, but those 3 cabins were, the better ones. Now
we saw that one that looked like a greenhouse, man. Like we tried to go into that one place, we didn't realize that we were up and around the hill, and I think it was really, really cool. I think one of my favorite things about that I remember from just where we stayed was that day that I launched the drone up over the roof and took it down out over the river as the sun was coming up. And we had that view. I mean, we had that view off of our back porch. That house had a nice wraparound porch. And, if we would have wanted to cook and do everything else, it had the stove, it had the refrigerator and all of that. But, we wanted to do what the locals do. So we decided we were going to branch out and explore.
Well, one thing I also want to bring up is like when you wake up in the morning to go fishing, Daniel, it is dark, but it's oh my God, dark. It's not like I can kind of see. It's like there could be an animal there and you would have no idea there.
Oh, yeah, we know.
That happened.
Conversely, absolutely. Conversely, when you're going to sleep, it's broad damn daylight. I mean, like if you're a light sleeper, bring the mask or the pillow or whatever. But yeah, 9 to 10 o'clock at night, it is still plenty of light outside. It's a lot of light. It don't get real dark till about midnight. So,
and I will say this, being fully transparent, right? I mean, we're all good buddies, and I would say if we named 20 other people, we would say, oh yeah, we're all good friends. This was a completely different level of getting to know your buddy, because even though we travel together, we're all in our separate rooms. Now the upstairs to this cabin, just like Grayson explained it, you walk up, there's a bathroom and there's a loft with 2 beds, and then there's one door and there's a bedroom. Now that door never got closed, and we just basically made it a community area upstairs. But here we are, never sharing a room together. I mean, we were walking around in our panties, shirts off. I mean, there's only 2 bathrooms. So when we come back, I mean, we all have to go to the bathroom, and whatever we're doing in there, the next person has to go in. So in the very beginning, I was a little nervous about how this trip was going to go. But once we got there, what I loved about it was there was no hesitation at all. We were there, we were brothers, and we were just going to have a great time. And I didn't feel as if it was our first time. I mean, we really got to know each other on so many different levels. That's what I think I loved about the trip. We were there as brothers.
Yeah, and I think something else is worth mentioning. And when you go on a trip like that, you can't like if anything at all in your life or your existence is an act or something that you put on for the public, you can't be on the entire time when you're in that kind of a group for that length of time. And from my perspective, what I would hope that it would have shown, both you and Aron, Daniel, and it's exactly what I saw from both of you. I'm no different when I'm in that environment than I am when I'm in a new business appointment, when I'm at the agency. If I take the stage to speak, I'm the same guy 100% of the time.
Let me tell you, look, I'm talking to people who do not know David Carothers.
Or think that they know David Carothers, right?
Now, let me get real serious here for a second. There are people who speak professionally for a living, and they have an on-stage persona and they have an off-stage persona. And I know some people that have a very different persona on stage than they do off, and vice versa. David Carothers is on all the time. There is no difference. I thought, holy shit, this guy wakes up like this, goes to bed like this, and I freaking love it. I'm like, this is not an act. This is who the guy is, which is hysterical. And that's why I said, I think, the one thing that you see about people who happen to be able to speak for a living or partial for their living, that it's not an act. It's genuine. It's who they are. That's just who he is. That's how he operates, and that's how his mind works. And I don't need to deviate from my true north. That's who I am. I'm going to show you who I am all the time. I'm not going to deviate to make you comfortable or less uncomfortable. I don't care, which is why I don't speak for a living. However, but David Carothers is the real deal. That's who he is. And Daniel and Grayson, again, I couldn't have asked for better folks to be around.
So I found out that the average person goes up there for about 5 days or so. And if it's a long trip, it's about 6 or 7 days. The lodge, well, first of all, everybody was so friendly at the lodge. It was unbelievable. They were so accommodating and hospitable. But they looked at us and said, "Oh, how long are you here?" And I think we said 9 or 10 days. And they said, "Oh, wow, that's a long trip." So we spent about 5 days actually fishing. I want to say 2 of those were deep sea fishing. 2 of those were fly out, and we did 1 river. And actually we did the 1 river and 1 fly, or what is that?
Yeah, we had flossing and bounce back.
That's right. So maybe
Back
6
bouncing.
days, 6 or 7 days, actually, I think.
Yeah.
My favorite, I got to tell you, I was the most nervous about the deep sea fishing, but I took, what is that? That pill,
Dramamine.
And I was fine. Now, I didn't.
Oh, you were not fine.
No.
You were not fine.
Aaron, this is where you're making a mistake.
You're not fine.
So this was when we were coming back, and I was sleeping and I was tired. But it was because I was sleeping and tired, not because I was incredibly sick.
Oh, we had it wrong, guys. Sorry.
Yes. But the first time we go out there, we're all nervous because we don't know what to expect. And granted, we woke up at 3 o'clock, left the cabins at 4. I think we got there, or maybe it was even earlier, because I think we got there around 6 or so. But it was about 2 or 3 hours out to sea. We're out there for about 5-6 hours, and it's another 2-3 hours back. Now, what did we catch out there? We caught,
it was halibut, but remember, it was a small craft advisory. He said we shouldn't be out here. He said, however, I'm willing to risk it. He said if we go right, we can go catch smaller.
That's
halibut.
right.
We go left, we can get the crap beat out of us. We're going to catch some monster halibut. I'm like, I'm puking either way. Let's do it, cowboy. I don't
Let's
care.
go.
Let's figure it out. We go big, we go, I don't care, either one. But yeah, it was a good hour and a half just to get out of the inlet, and then we were out in open ocean.
That's right.
And we opted for the smaller halibut, which they were still, I mean, 30, 40 pounds at least. But
I think that the thing that caught me by surprise when we did the offshore stuff is I'm so used to being down in the Keys where you're in a center console, you're running out at 40, 50 miles an hour to get out to where you want to be because the water's flat if the weather's nice. And when you're out there, you don't see anything. I'm not saying you don't see you see undeveloped nature. You don't see anything at all. It's your boat in the middle of the ocean and nothing around. Whereas when we were in Homer and Seward, even though we ran out that one day, like 2.5, 3 hours, there was always some type of land or island that was next to us, which was it just blew me away that we had run that far and there's still stuff there just based on how it is. I think the other thing I thought that was really cool, and y'all will have to correct me. I think which one did we get? We went to Seward second.
Seward second, Homer's first.
Yeah. So I think it was when we were at Seward that there was an actual, like an active volcano that was there that he was showing us that, like literally erupts. And I learned so much about just what happens in Alaska that you don't ever think about, right? I'm always blown away by a major hurricane hitting and people in other parts of the country have no clue that that just happened to Florida. But yet here I sit down in Florida and I have no idea that there's seismic activity and volcanoes up in Alaska that triggers tsunamis, so much so that they have tsunami alarms that go off. And the captain of the boat was telling us 2:00 in the morning, not that long ago, he sat straight up in bed because this tsunami alarm's going off, letting them know that something got triggered. And you don't even think about things like that, but nature's just one part of what you face when you get up there. The other thing is you are not at the top of the food chain, man. And I've really gotten a kick out of watching the videos of people who approach animals stupidly on YouTube since we came back, because we got some really good footage. We got very, very close to bears a number of times, and probably too close if we're being honest. But they were distracted. They were eating salmon. But at any given time, had those bears turned and decided they wanted white meat, they were going to get it. And that would have been really, really scary for us. I think that it's just interesting to think about all of the different things we saw. We saw brown bears. We saw black bears. We saw the moose. We saw eagles, all kinds of stuff. I think one of my favorite parts of the entire trip was when we were sitting at the construction site and we were stopped in traffic because they were doing some road work. And out of the corner of my eye, I just saw a disturbance on the surface of that body of water. And I think, in Alaska, I couldn't tell what was fresh water, what was salt water based on how everything was. I just kind of assume anything like ground level, not up in the mountains, probably is at least brackish at a bare minimum based on how it's connected. But I remember Aaron goes, "Do you see that dolphin?" I'm like, "Dude, that's not a dolphin. Dolphins have dorsal fins, and there wasn't one there." I said, "I think that may have been a beluga whale." And as soon as I said it, like 2 or 3 more pop up. And the whole time we're sitting there, we're literally in the truck on the highway, looking at the body of water right next to us. And we probably saw a dozen whales breach over that 5 minutes we were sitting there. And I'm like, this is incredible. I can't believe. And we get up and around the curve, and the place is called Beluga Point because it's the place everybody goes to look at those whales. We just
irony. Yeah, but I remember that when you talk about the story with the bears, the one thing that was saving us from being eaten and not eaten was a guy named Dougie.
Oh, good old Dougie. Good old Dougie.
The fishing guide named Dougie. Remember the guy with the pants hanging down? With his dad was the
he was the pilot.
He's the pilot.
Yeah.
How could you forget that guy?
Yeah, how do you forget Dougie?
He made it a great trip. So
Yeah.
Dougie, that was our second fly out, wasn't it?
That was a second fly out, yeah.
That was a second fly, and that was probably one of the most memorable because that's the one where we pulled up with the bears.
Yeah.
Now something pretty incredible happened on that day, because Dave, you brought a drone.
Oh God.
I've been fishing with people before when we've limited out. I've limited on mahi. I've limited as a little kid, 5, 6 years old. I would go out with my grandfather and my dad onto Lake Erie, and we would limit out on perch. We would limit out on walleye. And up until that day, we had hit our limit on salmon every day, but never in my life did I think that I would be on the trip when somebody limited out on drones. The skill set that Daniel Seong has as a person who has never fished before is amazing. And if you want to know why this guy is so successful, it's because he's not going to settle for the status quo. Anybody can catch the crap in the water that I'm supposed to be catching. Let me show you how to snag a fully operable drone out of the air as if it's not even there. Like, I'm gonna cast right there as if it doesn't exist. And I will never, I don't think anybody understands how close I was to like really being.
You guys, I was looking at the photos and videos, and this story has to be told properly. So I'll just tell my version real quick, and then you guys tell your version, okay?
And then we'll tell you the proper version. That's
yeah, exactly. So we what is that? We are parked or docked? What is that term?
Yeah,
Anchored?
We're anchored because
so we're anchored next to this. What is it? Little bump or little hill?
It's like a
I would
little
call it
marsh.
like a little island, like a little.
There you
it
go.
was
So now Dougie, our guide, gives us the okay to say, hey, look, you can step out of the boat because you won't sink in this area here. And we're fishing for trout. I mean, I'm on one side of the boat, Dave is on the other, Grayson's on the Aron's
everywhere. We're all hooked up.
We're just fishing, and we're catching them too. We're throwing them in. They're coming, and now Dave, he wants to get a little bit more space, so he steps out of the boat and starts walking around. And he's probably no more than maybe 10, 15 feet away from the boat. And I see him getting his drone out. I said, oh man, that's a great idea. This is going to be an amazing footage. So he's doing his thing. Now I'm back to fishing. Grayson is, Aron is, and we're catching fish. And Dougie is, helping us with the net. And I catch one. And I swing it around to the front of the boat. So I'm facing the front of the boat now. And Doug, he gets the net, he puts new bait on my hook, and he says, okay, Daniel, you're ready, you're good to go. Not knowing that Dave wants to capture all this. Now the drone is behind the boat, right in my range here. So without looking, I throw my fishing rod over, and all of a sudden I see Dave's drone just crash down to the water.
Because you were casting to the fish because you could see the fish in the water.
Right.
You were back to where it was. You were focused on the fish. The drone was about 10 to 12 feet off the water when you hit that. And I was sitting there watching all this unfold. And I saw you cast, and I heard the whir of the zzz of the drone there. Boom, clutch. And next thing you know, you start reeling. Dougie's like, reel it in, and you've got it like this, like you're fighting a fish. I think I kind of take a step back and think of the circus that I'm watching unfold in my eyes, and I start wheezing with laughter.
Oh, we're just getting warmed up. We're just getting warmed up at that point.
It was like slow motion. Cast, drone, in the water. I'm looking like, oh God, he caught the drone. We're out here, we flew 1,300, 1,400 miles, sometimes more for salmon, and we catch a damn drone. And I start losing my mind laughing, and I can't. And then, Doug is trying to, I can save it. He can save it. I can save it. So he's going to save this drone by untangling it. And, we just got to get the battery out and all this stuff. And we're super concerned. We're not laughing at the fact. And I think it's clear after that, we aren't laughing at, the cost David, $1,000 or more for a drone. It was just the total.
I'm laughing just thinking about what
situation.
It was so
chaos.
ridiculous. The whole thing was just insane, right? And so I'm looking at it because anybody out there listening that has a drone knows that you don't watch the drone, you watch your screen, and you get your screen on your phone. So I don't even know that Daniel hit my drone. I'm looking at it on my phone, getting it positioned because in my mind, I'm getting ready to get the absolute shot of a lifetime that Daniel's going to be able to take home and show his family when he hooked up with the salmon, and I get the drone shot sweeping in from left to right and go right around the front end of the boat and zoom in on him angling, just rushing this thing. And the next thing I know, like I just see water. Like I just see I see the sky, and then I see the water, and I'm like, oh crap. So I'm on this like island thing in the middle of the river that we were fishing, and it was fairly stable where I was, except it wasn't, and I didn't know that. And so as Dougie is sitting there screwing around, like ripping at the line to get the drone out, I'm trying to get there and like, don't do that, guy. You don't know what you're doing. You're the reason they got the shit locked up at Walmart, bud. So anyhow, like you don't know what you're doing with my drone. So I end up trying to go and get it, and I step off, and I step down like 3 feet, 3 feet or 4 feet. And the way that I was,
Dave, your face was at the boat level.
I was going to say, I literally was lucky enough to get my arm up to stop me, because if I would not have done that, I would have been under the boat. There is no question. And water started to get into my waders.
Yeah.
And if I would have gone any further, my waders would have filled completely. I'd have been under the boat, and good luck. I mean, I don't know how you'd have gotten me out of there. It would have been nearly impossible, because the mud, the silt or whatever was so soft, it would have been like quicksand. Plus, I'd have been weighted down that much more. I mean, I was already, I'm pretty quick on my feet for the most part. So I was already thinking about, do I need to try and get out of these waders as quick as I possibly can? Because there's no way I'm physically strong enough to pull myself out of here. And thank God, you know, Aron and you guys grabbed me and yanked me up. But I mean, for a split second there, that was a lot closer to a really, really bad situation than what I think any of us realized.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, that's how I sum up Alaska altogether. Everywhere you go in Alaska, you are a hair away from a really bad situation if you don't know what you're doing. Like, I'm going to advocate everybody go there. I think everybody should go fish. I think they should stay at the same place we stayed and everything else. What I'm going to tell you is have some common sense when you do it, for crying out loud. Don't approach animals. Like, pay attention to everything around you, because at any given time, like I was not even comfortable when we would get home after dark.
Right.
Like that first night when we went to that place and Grayson had the world's worst steak. When we went to that place and got back,
Buckets.
I literally, my butt puckered when I had to walk the 20 steps from the truck to the front door of our cabin, because I had no clue what was looking at me through the woods, but I can promise you something was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so Aron, so once we figure out, okay, Dave is okay, he's safe, and he's back up on the boat, we pretty much pack up and we start taking off and maybe going to a different area. And this is when I lost it. Once we confirmed that Dave was okay, I'm riding on the boat. I look over and I see Aron he's laying down because he's laughing so much.
Well, because the line,
and then I recorded that.
Right, but the line that hit my brain, because we were so conscious of how many fish we had, we limited out on this, and the line that hit my mind was, "Well, boys, are limited out on drones too." I saw you trying not to laugh because you thought Dave was mad, and I'm like, I don't think he's mad. I think he just like kind of like shocked at what just happened.
Yeah,
I was glad to be alive, man.
Yeah, we go to help him, and the damn boat went like this, and then Daniel had to go fall back to kind of counterbalance the boat.
Right.
And it was just such a almost disastrous. But I started laughing about the fact that we limited out on drones, and then I see you trying not to laugh, which makes me laugh harder. And then you're turning your face like this, so Dave didn't see you laughing, and I'm losing my mind. I'm like, and I told you I have it all on a video, and you're like, oh my God. That's when we all just started losing it.
And what was that the fish eggs that we used for bait? What was that called?
Yeah,
Roe.
salmon roe.
What is it? Roe. Okay.
Roe, yeah, it was salmon roe, but it was weird because I never he was explaining how they create this brine
It was
that they put it in, and then it actually like sticks together in a glob, so much so that they could put those little rubber bands around it, and it would actually hold it on the hook pretty good.
Even when you throw it, and even when it's in the water, it would all stay together. But you know, we're fishing out there. This is probably maybe the third or fourth day. We're having a great time, and you know, we've used this roe out at, I think it was out at sea. We used it out in the river on the fly out, and all of a sudden Aron gets this bright idea. He's, he's a curiosity kind of, he's curious, right? And he says, you know what? I wonder how this tastes. And I said, well, there's only one way to find out.
Coming from the guy who has the perfect bite. You eat the most random stuff, onions. And I said, we have to eat some random stuff in Alaska. You're like, I'm in. I'm like, Daniel, the perfect bite. You're like, what?
I will never be in on that. Never.
So how did that taste?
Oh, well, when I proposed you do it and I saw you like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, and you had your phone out. I'm like, this is happening. I'm going to absolutely do this. I thought it would be more salty, but like, cause you think like caviar, that kind of thing. It was definitely not salty, but I popped it in. It was just
And,
big.
and it wasn't just a little piece. You popped in a
was
mouthful.
Oh yeah. If we're going to do that, we're going to go ham. Put it all the way. But no, I popped a big mouthful of it in my mouth, and it was chemical. It was not salty, even a little bit. It was not good, even a little bit. But no, it was okay until I tried to chew and then try to swallow. When I tried to chew it and swallow it, that's when I lost it, and I had to either throw it up or get it out. But yeah, I thought for sure Daniel Seong, the perfect bite guy, was going to do the perfect bite.
Well, when we told all the locals what you did, that you took
They
a bite
were-
of it,
they were
they,
like,
they
"This
said
guy's
you
nuts."
are crazy. You are nuts.
Part-time.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, it's I think I had, to be honest with you, I'd completely forgotten about that. Plus, then we also, we did the root beer tasting contest from the different the craft root beers we found.
Yeah,
out
that was
there.
good. Yeah. We try to play, me and Grayson try to play spades like 6 times. It never happened. We still got to play spades, Grayson.
Yeah, we do.
I think I've got the basics. We got the basics down.
Yeah.
We just got to play the damn game now.
Are we not going to talk about the coffee run the daily coffee runs?
I don't see why we shouldn't. I
Yeah.
mean, that was, and you know what? I think that's native to that part of the country,
I
because
think so,
Seattle
too,
and
yeah.
Portland are both like really huge coffee places. I was honestly surprised at the number of places to go up there and get coffee. Just a little
Shacks.
shacks on the side of the road, and I don't know of a time we stopped that it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
And-
quality, you're
and
right. It's a great business model. They don't have them, where you're at. They probably should. Those are great business models. They have some here, but not the frequency they had in Alaska.
One thing that is very just normal to me, I found out that is not normal to anyone else. And something so small that you don't even think about this. So we go to our first restaurant, our first dinner in Kenai, and I with that sports bar, and we sit down, everyone's ordering their drink. And I think, some people order beer, some people order soda. And she comes to me and she said, what would you like to drink? And I said, can I just have some hot water? And you guys looked at me like I was the weirdest thing in the world.
Because it is weird. Who
I
drinks
haven't had it since.
You've heard of anyone having it sent besides you?
Really? It's just one thing. I always have hot water.
As a matter of fact, I forgot about that until you just brought it up.
I've had it before with like some honey or a little lemon in it or whatever if I've got a sore throat, but I'm not going to use hot water as my daily drinker anytime soon, I don't think. I thought you were on to some like old, like new age medicine, like some new age medicine trick or something from the Far East that we didn't know about. Like, I thought this was Daniel's Asian heritage coming in, and like all the Asian people drink hot water now.
Well,
So,
actually,
like-
a lot of people do. A lot of them do, actually, or a lot of
Yeah,
us.
so I mean, and it's just interesting to me that there wouldn't be like tea leaves, like putting a tea bag in it or coffee or whatever. I mean, to each his own, man. I'm not going to judge you because you drink hot water. That's your business. But it caught me by surprise. I've never seen anybody do that before. So here's my question: because we probably need to wrap up. We could sit here and recap this thing for like 3 more hours if we wanted to, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time, including our audience. Grayson, favorite thing of the entire trip?
Probably Aron's stories.
Okay, fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, Aron Robertson's more stories, more legendary than the Alaskan frontier. So just know that. If you have an opportunity to engage in a conversation, A, he should come with a T-shirt that's a warning label, and B, more legendary than the Alaskan wilderness. Aron,
Just
what
know
about
your
you?
audience. I think obviously the drone was absolutely spectacular. But even going out to the island after the island we pulled up to, that little fort, whatever that thing was, that was like this big,
We'll never know what it really was.
Yeah.
we don't really
seriously.
know. Me and Daniel got chewed out for going too far, right?
We almost got jumped.
Yeah, I mean, we think that's where they're keeping hostages and meth. I don't know what's going on over there, but think that people live like that. That's how they live, and they live out in the wilderness. And they said it was because there's a big bear problem, which clearly there is. But I think the drone thing was hysterical. I think just we almost hit a moose, which was absolutely hysterical. After we didn't hit the moose. But that was just wildlife is right there. You think that you're fairly protected because of your border, your wall, or you're not. They want in, they're coming.
No, I think the funniest thing for me, like one of the funniest things I heard is when we all thought we were going to actually do damage with 45 or 50 caliber. And the guy just laughed. He's like, that's going to bounce off of a bear. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, and they were there. The Bears again. I think we were more worried about the Bears, and they're worried about us. But I think the favorite trip again, the flossing thing. I tried to get you guys to not floss only because it's a stupid technique, I think. But the fly out trips with the silvers, I would do fly out trips, go silver at the Kasilof, or go out to some of these islands where these silver salmon are running, and just absolutely tear them up, because you can do that. It's actually hooking with a hook and bait and all that, whereas flossing, you're basically snagging fish as they swim by. I think it's more true to the angling that we're all normally used to having. But for me, I think it was the fly out trips and silvers and those little bush planes, that float planes, amazing. The scenery.
What about you, Daniel?
And Aaron, just so you know, Grayson is 100% telling the truth about your stories, because him and I would sit in the back of the truck when you were telling your stories, and Grayson would hit me and say, Daniel, ask him another one. Ask him another one.
Well, again, you asked me, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is just my life. I've lived in 46 years, a pretty incredible life. I've been a lot of places, done a lot of things. Some I'm proud of, some I'm not, but it's my life. It's what makes me me. Yeah. But I mean, it is again, I just believe in being my true, authentic self, and having so much fun, like sharing things I've done, things I want to do. And I think this is one of many trips that we're going to look back and thankful we got an opportunity to do. But this is one. Remember, we got another one coming up.
That's right.
Another one. So let's not stop with Alaska.
My favorite part about the trip, I mean, there isn't one thing specifically of the trip, the fishing, the conversations that we had. I mean, the stupid little jokes that we made, that it's only funny to us. Right. If we told the jokes, it would be fun. It wouldn't be funny to anyone else. But because we were there spending time together, the memories, the fish, everything, even the food, I was impressed with the food. The thing that I am proud about this trip is that, again, we all took it. We made a decision, as busy as we are. I mean, we're all family guys. Yeah. As busy as we are, we did it. And you guys, my longest trip was 20 years ago when I got married. Our honeymoon, we went to Jamaica, and that was probably for about 7 days. This Alaska trip was my longest trip ever in my life. And outside of Hawaii and outside of Jamaica, I have not been out of the country. I mean, I served in Okinawa, but outside of that, and yes, Alaska's still the U.S., but I mean, you know what I mean. So this was a big deal for me, and I was just proud of all of us that we're at a point in our lives where we can do this, and just be out there and just have a good time. I mean, yeah, the internet was pretty sketchy, and it wasn't a perfect situation at times. But man, we had fun. We made the best of it. We had great memories, and we had so much fun that we're open to doing it again.
Absolutely.
Dave, what about you?
I think I think that I could have done that trip in any kind of a format at any time down the road, and it would pale in comparison to the week that we had. I think that what you know, it's like a recipe. I think we had all the right ingredients and we cooked it at the right temperature. Everything was perfect, from even the imperfections allow us to tell stories, which only cement the memory that much more. And so I think from my perspective, and I would challenge any of the other, ladies and gentlemen that are out there listening to this, I understand that this probably, that this has the bent to be a guy's trip, but please understand that's because it was. I'm not advocating that everybody go out and do an only guys trip. Ladies, it's equally as important for you to have your girls trips. And I encourage that my wife does that. One of the reasons that my relationship with Andrea is as strong as it is because we allow each other that freedom and flexibility to go do those things because we understand how important it is that we have relationships outside of ours too. And let me be very clear, people, we're not swingers. I'm talking about friendships. But I think it's really, really important that we have those friendships. And I do think that it's really important as men that you have other men that are in your inner circle, that are holding you accountable, that are keeping you in check, that that if you need something, you can pick up the phone and call them. And, Mike Carey, when we were in Key West, probably said it best a couple weeks ago. He said, David keeps his inner circle really tight. And I said, you're right. And that's intentional. I can't have a big inner circle. And I don't think any of us really can, but being able to go on that trip and know that I didn't have to try and pretend to be anybody that I'm not. Not that I would have, but there was just zero pressure, man. We went to have a good time. Our biggest objective was to have a good time. And I think we accomplished that. So I would say overall, just the general dynamic and then the fact that we got to do it together is my favorite part. But if you want to know like an actual, like tangible favorite part of the whole thing, the second fly out trip, I got put on a plane by myself. You guys were separate from me, if you remember. When we flew back to the lodge, I had to get on the plane because they had a space and there wasn't going to be enough room on the other one. And so we're flying and the guy's in the seaplane and it just keeps going up and up and up. And I'm like, wait a minute, we did not fly this high coming in. And it kept going. And I'm like, this thing's not rated to go much higher probably than where we're at. And the next thing I know, like we're getting really, really close to the clouds. And I'm like looking down the thing to make sure the pilot's okay, like that he knows what he's doing. And as soon as we get to right about where the clouds were, he banks over and we bank to the right and we go between the peaks of two mountains that are up there. And I look down and there's this absolutely gorgeous glacier,
Beautiful.
mountain lakes and everything. It was absolutely pristine. And for that moment, you felt like you were at the absolute top of the world. There was nothing that was, more pure than that look at that time. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, when you go on a bucket list trip, you need to see and witness things you'll probably never, ever see again. I'm going to catch plenty of salmon. I'm going to, I'm probably going to ruin another drone at least once. I'm going to have friends that I go on trips with and we have good memories and stories to tell after. But I don't know that I'm ever going to be in a seaplane in Alaska, banking between the peaks of two mountains to see one of the most beautiful natural landscapes that I've ever seen. And to me, when I think back about what that looked like, even though I tried to capture it on film, nothing will ever replace what it looks like when you glance on that the first time. And so for me, I'd say that was my favorite tangible moment of the entire thing. But, I really just think the whole trip was worthwhile. I think it was good personally. I think it was good professionally. It allowed me to get out and just think about things that I needed to get cleared up in my own head and sorted through that I would never take the time to do when I was here. So in the office. So I think that was really, really cool. And for those of you who are wondering, Aron sort of dropped a hint, but there is another one coming up this summer and we're heading to Panama, boys, and we're going to go see what we can't drum up there. And Grayson's not the next one in the rotation. He had his trip. So we're going to see who the player to be named later is. It may be Landon, assuming he's willing to go, but he's a little bit of a recluse and maybe not as conditioned to go on that type of a trip is a nice way to put it. But if Landon ain't coming, my boy E's next in line. I will bring Ethan to Panama to fish.
Love it. Love it.
You will never see anything like it. That I can assure you. While we were on this podcast, Annie sent me a video on Facebook Messenger. Today was garbage day, and they must have spilled something. And Ethan was angry at the garbage man. He had the hose and his squeegee out cleaning off the outside of the garbage can before he took it back because they made a mess. And he was blessing them out on the video.
I mean, you got marlin, Pacific marlin, black marlin, wahoo, yellowfin tuna. I mean, come on. How do you not take that trip? I
don't know what else you could ask for.
That's amazing. I can't wait.
I love it.
Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you coming on. More importantly, I appreciate the trip. I appreciate your friendship. And I mean, to Daniel's point, we definitely left that time closer than we were when we got there, and nothing will ever change that. So I can't think of anybody better that we could have spent that time with. And I mean, we weren't even really, to be honest with you, we weren't even that great of friends. We were friends and had spent time together, but you don't spend that kind of time with just anybody. And so I think it was a really, really cool experience. And I would challenge everybody out there, just go cross one off the bucket list this year, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Love you guys.
You too, buddy.
That's awesome.
All right, guys. I'll holler at you later. We'll catch you guys next week. See ya.